But for those that are new, Gateway Jacks is a project that was thought up by a group of investors, kind of like led by JWB
That's right.
and DLP, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Really quickly, for those of you that have not heard the story, 4 years ago now, probably about 3.5 years ago, is when I first got connected with Alex.
yeah,
2021. It was late
yeah.
2021.
Alex Safakis, co-founder of
Alex
JWB.
Safakis.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Yep. That's really where it all began. And we chatted for about 6 or 7 months about the opportunity. Had the chance to meet the DLP capital team,
hmm
as well as the rest of the JWB real estate capital team. And the rest is history. We founded, what is today? The 29th. We founded the company on August 1st, 2022.
Okay.
And I was employee number one. I like to tell the story. Employee number one, I literally got in the car and went to Office Max on my first day to buy a printer. So I had a printer. I think JWB let me a computer, so at least I had that going. But yeah, we started it from scratch. The JWB Real Estate Capital team had already put several projects either under ownership, or sites, I should say, under ownership, a couple of assets or contract. And we've been off to the races since then. We now have about 25 city blocks, all are parts of 25 city blocks, about 32 different acres.
25 city blocks.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, all throughout the urban core of
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah.
And our first phase is called Pearl Square.
Pearl
And
Square.
we were calling it the Pearl Street District for the longest time, so don't
It's not
fault
my
you for
fault.
that. It's not your fault.
All
It
right.
was
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
ours. But we finally branded it Pearl Square.
Yeah.
And really quick side story about that. The group from Colorado is going to appreciate this, but a University of Colorado Boulder graduate alum, and there's a street there called Pearl Street, which is one of the more famous streets, I think, in all of Colorado, but beautiful street. And simultaneously, there's a place in Denver called Larimer Square, which was one of the first areas of lower downtown Lodo that was renovated. And so, those were two, as I grew up in Colorado too. So I visited those places a lot growing up, and they're very big sources of inspiration for me in terms of how retail can really do a great job of placemaking. And so I found out there was a Pearl Street in Jacksonville, and that it was actually all around our retail or our projects, our sites. And I thought, wow, you couldn't create a better script. The one thing I'll say about Larimer Square, that I think is a testament to what even one block of just really great, thoughtful public realm investment and really good retail, lots of food and beverage, but even, the flags that come over the street there. It's just everything has been done so well there. And now it's so old, they're turning over, the tenants are turning over, because their leases have come to an end. So anyway, so that was really a source of inspiration for me, and it's the namesake of our first phase.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's a new story. That's a
Yeah.
new story that we hadn't heard. Man, we can just dive into it, right? Because I love placemaking. I love this stuff, right? I think I've told you, my wife has a master's in urban design, right?
Yeah.
So like we have these conversations around the dinner table. When you say when we talk about placemaking, I think of placemaking as a conscious way of, like I think there's real estate developers and then there's placemakers, right? Like real estate developers to me are concentrated on the performance of maybe a singular deal or multiple deals that are happening. And it's almost like limited to this Excel sheet numbers. When I think of placemaking, I think of people that are really thinking through these externalities that happen when you aren't just you're thinking about the returns on investment, but you also recognize that there is some hidden kind of like magic sauce in understanding how the built environment affects the human experience.
Totally.
And because of that, you're more likely to maybe give up some buildable square footage for the sake of a public-private space or, old growth trees that add shade and add quality of life.
Grocery store.
How am I doing?
Sorry.
Grocery store, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. The very first job that I had coming out of college, and it was in Washington, D.C. I'd interned on Capitol Hill for about 3 months and realized I wasn't ready for politics at that point in time. But I got a job working for a company called RCL Co. And it was a consulting company, and I ended up spending my first 2 professional years at RCL Co. And it was the types of consulting that they would do is mostly for real estate developers, but most real estate developers would come or landowners would come to RCLCO with a piece of property, maybe an idea, all throughout the country, and say, what should we do with this? And there's a tremendous alumni network from RCLCO, because it really, the type of training and environment that we had there really got us to think about just, don't get caught within the four walls of the building, right? Start thinking about the environment, what adds value. And it was a very data-focused company. So we started investigating what percent of increase in value or increase in rents can you get if you add a grocery store? What does a park do? What's the ideal outdoor amenity space or outdoor seating space for a retailer? What are the traits that lead to higher retail rents? Like all these different things that we would research. And so while at the University of Colorado, I studied urban planning, it was a very design forward 4 years when I first got started learning about real estate development. My next 2+ years were more analytical. And so I was able to sort of bring those two things together. But through that time period, there are certain things that have not changed. One is public spaces, really great programmed public parks, especially ones that have retail around or near it, grocery stores, food and beverage. Certain things have been pretty timeless in the 2+ years that I've been in the business. And I think that, even with a grocery store, for example, a lot of people thought that home delivery of groceries was going to totally change the grocery business. And it probably has in many ways. But in an urban environment, you love to not have to think about ordering groceries for a week, because you can just run downstairs and go to the grocery store and pick up a couple things and run back up to your condo or your apartment. So there are definitely things that have been tried and true that help create value when you have the scale that we do.
Super interesting, man. As you tell the story, it's like, yes, you were the perfect guy that was like engineered to become this person that does this, right? Like I think in our first show together, we talked about, what do you tell your mom you do? Like, do you tell your mom that you're a city builder?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember if I told this story on the last time I was on, but as long as I can remember, I've loved some aspect of the built environment. It started with Legos. My dad was a bricklayer, and through that, I got to see a lot of like home building when I was really young. Started with Legos, got into SimCity, for all of you SimCity nerds out there. And I've just loved it throughout my entire life. When I graduated from high school, fortuitous was this, my parents took out a little ad. I don't know if you, like, when you graduate high school, your yearbook, you can take out ads and stuff. Well, they took out a little ad and it said, today or yesterday you were playing with blocks. Tomorrow, you'll be building cities or something like that, which was really cool. So yeah, there's obviously there are reasons why downtown Jacksonville is primed for continued growth. And I think probably spectacular growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's not just us. I mean, there has been tremendous, like I think $2 billion, there's $8 billion of planned and proposed and under construction or completed assets that have been done and all throughout downtown. I mean, $8 billion of private and public capital that is funneling into downtown. So we are certainly doing our part. We're bringing in a lot of really great retail amenities, good public spaces, as you mentioned, hotels, a lot of great stuff. We now control a site that's on the St. Johns River, which we're looking forward to activate that area of downtown. But anyway, so it's, there's a lot going on, and we're super excited about what we're doing.
I'm excited. Like as a resident, as a investor in Jacksonville, somebody that lives here that's gonna enjoy it in every way, right? Like I'm gonna enjoy it from going there, and I'm gonna enjoy it from like the home price appreciation that's gonna happen.
Good.
Super pumped about it. I want to show kind of like bring people along visually a little bit of like the project to just catch everybody up, and then just talk through kind of like what's happening on the ground and what you're seeing, right? So I wanted to share this little, a lot of our community has seen these slides, but for anybody that hasn't yet, this is basically the Gateway Jacks presentation, right? Like this Pearl Square, downtown Jacksonville, crazy statistics, right? $2 billion in development, 1,250 plus residential units, 2,000 square feet of retail, $750 million a year in economic impact across 25 city blocks.
Well, I can tell you corners are absolutely important. Probably one of the most important things that you can do. And actually, if you kind of hold on the one Pearl Street and Beaver Street, yeah. One of the most important things that you can do as cluster. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
In addition to clustering, it's really important to create some of the best environments. If you can think of some of the best urban environments that you've been in, I would venture to guess that among the top 5 of them, there was double-sided activation, meaning you've got activity on one side, very similar to coupling. This should make me think about, or clustering, sorry. And just a couple of the names that I mentioned earlier, Pearl Street, Larimer Square, but really any really
Water Street district.
Water Street is another one.
Lived this, and I sent you a text from there.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And it holds up, not all the time, but time and time again, having the experience of active activity on both sides of a street or both sides of a pedestrian way is really important to making a place.
When you say activity on both sides, are we talking about like having this restaurant over here and then a crosswalk and there's another restaurant? What is the definition of an activity?
I would say for the most part, probably 9 times out of 10, it's a restaurant, food and beverage, or some kind of shopping. So it could be soft goods. Think of like a Lululemon or something like that. Something that's got activity, people walking in and out of the door or eating on the street. On this slide in particular, so Beaver Street today has none of that today. And now there are buildings under construction along it, ours. But today it's 4 lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction, no bike lanes, and pretty small sidewalks. Yeah. And so what we are doing intentionally, we're setting the buildings back so we can get larger sidewalks. We have outdoor dining opportunities that will front every single one of our restaurants. We're actually going to require that the restaurants have outdoor seating if they want to be in our project, and which they'd want to do anyway because they can make more money doing it. But then we're adding bike lanes. We actually now have a turn lane in the middle, and we're actually unconsciously slimming down the amount of travel lanes from 4 to 2 minus the turn lane. So that will ultimately slow down traffic, make it better for a pedestrian, make it feel more comfortable for people shopping on both sides of the street.
So it's activated in the sense that you can do something on one side of the street and on the other side of the street. And then on top of that, you're making it easy to like cross the street.
Yes. And so in the thing, it's interesting because there's some, I guess, psychology that gets into this, because it's not just that you could shop across the street or you could go, it's visually seeing the activity across the street that makes you feel more comfortable being on the other side of the street. And so, that's getting back to my urban planning days. There's a whole science behind the way that you can design successful public spaces, and putting retail and food and beverage specifically on both sides of a street is one of those ways.
Interesting. Interesting. So this is essentially, we're talking about 25 city blocks overall of what you're going to affect, but this Pearl Square district is probably about like 5 blocks.
It's about 10 of them.
10 of them. Okay,
yeah.
10 of them.
Yeah, it's grown. It's grown in size since when we first started this 3 years ago. But yeah, and that's been intentional, and it's happened for really great but relatively organic reasons. Yeah. So we have, and I'll tell you the stats, that you had some of them up there earlier. The first phase alone will be about $750 million of capitalization, and that could grow a little bit based on what we end up doing on the one final site that we're adding to this first phase called Pearl Square. Really a neighborhood. We should probably call it a neighborhood, but it's at that, especially at 10 blocks, that scale really starts to feel like a neighborhood, like a Water Street in Tampa. But so 1,250 residential units, you mentioned that. And that's just in Pearl Square alone. So there will be a lot more in other future phases and other neighborhoods that we were able to create downtown. 200,000 square feet of grocery anchored retail. I'll come back to the retail maybe here in a bit and talk a little bit more about that. But we also acquired an entire city block since the last time I was on that has the old Ambassador Hotel.
That's right.
Which is currently vacant, and we're now working with a company called Indigo Road Hospitality out of Charleston. A guy named Steve Palmer, who is one of the best in the business. They own and manage a number of restaurants and hotels all throughout the Southeast. We are lucky to in Oku, for those of you that are joining us from Jacksonville, you would know Oku on Jack's Beach, but there are a lot of other examples, and we are lucky to be working with him on that hotel. And he's looking to do an Italian restaurant on the ground floor of the hotel. And there'll be 110 keys of really cool boutique style hotel rooms,
I love a
but
good
great food
boutique
and
hotel.
beverage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. With the food and beverage concept involved. Yeah, we
absolutely.
travel to those.
And public spaces, two parks. Pearl Square itself will be feel like a park. That's the street that again is sort of the namesake of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
We'll be able to close that off. You can have festivals, farmers markets. I'm sure there will be almost all of those spaces will be food and beverage. So there'll be a lot of outdoor dining. It'll really feel like a special place. And believe it or not, this might be a surprise to some people, but we are planning on, or we are currently designing an office building, a new office building. And the reason for that is that we have not seen it in Jacksonville yet, but there is a trend in urban downtown areas all throughout the United States, or I should say in the Sun Belt cities especially. It's been proven out where there's a saying called flight to quality for office tenants.
Okay.
And so these are tenants that are looking for better designed floor plates, really great amenities, outdoor space for their employees, and for well-lit spaces,
Sure.
everything that you need today to run a really great, efficient company and to motivate your employees.
Yeah.
And a lot of the office buildings, candidly, that were, designed and built in the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s were not designed in a way to maximize all of that. They were designed in a way to pack people in.
Yeah.
And a lot of the floor plates are really deep because in some instances, if you think of like a law firm, you would typically have exterior offices that would be filled with, that's right. And then you'd have, the clerks that would be sort of in the
Yeah.
dark area in the middle. And we just don't work that way anymore.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of tenants these days are looking for spaces that they can make very open, collaborative.
Yeah.
Like I said, well lit, lots of outdoor space and amenities that you may not see in older buildings. So we're excited about that one.